Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give it about a minute or so to let everybody enter the webinar, and then we'll get started. We'll get started in about 1 minute. Okay, let's get started. Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. What kind of an impact will coronavirus have on tourism long-term? I'm Ron Goldberg, Senior Director of Volunteer and Digital Programs on the Henrietta, New York campus, and your moderator this afternoon. Before I introduce our speaker, there are a few housekeeping points I want to go over. All attendees have joined in mute mode. However, your questions can be entered in the Q&A box at any time throughout the discussion. We'll make every effort to address all of your questions and comments throughout the webinar. If you have any technical questions, please feel free to type those in the Q&A box as well, and we will respond to you as quickly as possible. We would like to thank our Access Services team for helping us make this webinar accessible for all of our alumni. Real-time captioning is available within the webinar, and our interpreters will be spotlit during the presentation. The pandemic has had a major impact on everyone, including our students. We thank all of our alumni and friends for the support you have given to our students during these uncertain times. RIT Croatia was founded in 1997, and we are excited to be celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. Throughout the year, we'll be organizing many different activities and events in order to celebrate this important anniversary, and our alumni will, of course, be included in some of them. One of the first activities organized in order to celebrate this anniversary are alumni webinars held by our alumni from the Croatian campuses. And this is the third one. We will continue with more alumni webinars on different interesting topics throughout June. Now on to our session. We are pleased to welcome Irina Tomić. Irina is one of the most influential individuals in the New Europe hotel industry for 2021 and has shown that dedication, hard work, enthusiasm, and love are the perfect combination to keep up in tourism. Irina has served as the head of sales and marketing for Blue Kotor Bay, which has received many awards under her guidance. These include TripAdvisor's Traveler's Choice Award for Best of the Best and Best Post-COVID Destination for Summer 2022. She started her journey in 2002 after graduating from RIT Dubrovnik and started at Starwood Hotels and Resorts in Croatia, where she learned what premium travel should look like and is actively involved in creating new destinations and products in both Croatia and Montenegro. Irina attends conferences and events as a presenter, speaker, or panelist, focusing on destination management, hotel branding, and hotel management. She is currently focused on Blue Kotor Bay's next phase, developing their well-being as a new service, which has become more popular during the pandemic. Irina, thank you for joining us. The audience is all yours.
Thank you so much, Ron, for this introduction. I am very happy to be part of the RIT Croatia 25th anniversary. When I hear this 25 years, even though I look young with this hair, it seems that we are getting older and older. So I will be speaking today about what happened actually during past 2.5 years and what kind of impacts we are currently feeling and what we are about to feel and how to cope with this. Ron actually said a few things about me, so I will just continue with the presentation. But unfortunately, even though we tried everything, I cannot move to next phase, to next slide. So I will need some help.
Are you able to press the down arrow? Will that do anything?
Yes, I tried that as well.
Okay, why don't we have Singyu, do you want to?
Okay, it's
Oh, there
working.
it goes.
Okay. No. Okay. So I will start with some numbers just to actually get a feeling of what tourism means in the world. When I was having my first presentation about COVID impact, it was 2 years ago. It was the first moment when I got a chance to realize globally how many people are actually working in tourism, what is the total GDP, what are the other industries that are directly influenced. So to be honest, I was amazed to see that 330 million jobs worldwide are in tourism. So 4% out of the world GDP is actually from tourism. It means that you have 1 out of 10 jobs worldwide in tourism. And later you will learn that half of these jobs actually goes to women. Tourism direct gross domestic product is 3.5 trillion US dollars. And it was in 2019. I just want to mention that even though we take this 2019 as our ground point for all the measurements and statistic data, 2019 did not just happen. So it was gradually growing in numbers, developing new destinations, new markets, new airlines, new tours, new routes. So we take this as a measurement because for the past 20 years before 2019, tourism was happening and developing. And when COVID hit, it was not like gradually coming down, what was the situation where we were going up to 2019, but it was like a drop that hit us very hard. As you can see, the out of 4% of total world GDP, we came down to 1.8. It is also very important, the revenues for the export in tourism. So 42% of the total world tradings actually come from tourism. And as you can see with this nice data, which are actually from the UNWTO informational data statistics, you can see that the impact was just terrible. As I mentioned, tourism was one of the largest and fastest growing tourism sector in the world. Why it was so important? Because with destination development, you are developing a specific economy. You are actually directly influencing people who are without job. You are directly influencing market openness. You are expanding middle class. There are many growing opportunities to also influence other industries which are in that part. So the tourism recently became, due all to those factors, more affordable also to people. Air travel became more affordable. Visa facilitation was increased. People in certain countries did not even need visa, or just to get it, the time was cut. So there were many things in the past 10 years specifically which led to the point where tourism became so important. I can speak about COVID. I think the best thing would be to speak about COVID and what it did, how we were coping with the situation, and what changes in particular is going to bring to to hotel industry and to tourism. You heard so many stories that tourism was the most affected sector by COVID pandemic. As tourism represented a major source for the export revenues for many countries, it directly impacted the GDP, and this sector also supported millions of direct and indirect jobs over the world, particularly youngsters and particularly women. You know that tectonic change happened in March 2019, which actually lasted, and in certain area it still lasts. One of the best countries actually to get some numbers back was this part of the Europe where I am, and actually among those countries, Croatia showed that it can be leader in putting out or in getting back some jobs and some numbers. I am in between Croatia and Montenegro, and I'm evidence that governmental issues between two countries, when resolved, can very much positively influence some number. But also those destinations which are basically living from tourism, they are of course most vulnerable destinations. You can see that USA, Germany, Italy, Mexico, Spain, United Kingdom, those are the countries with highest GDP among countries which are living from tourism. I can tell you that just recently I had a pleasure to go to France, and it was like 2 weeks ago, and the Paris is, it was a business purpose. Paris is acting like nothing happened. There are millions of tourists everywhere. Important thing to notice is that you cannot see tourists from Asia, unfortunately. So we can conclude, and we also know that COVID pandemic is still happening over there. And this is, for example, you have on the one side, you have tourism showing full recovery, and on the other side of the world, you have COVID still influencing negatively situation. It was one very nice thought that I needed to pull out. I didn't know this information. In 1950, it was the dawn of the jet age. Only 25 million people took foreign trips. By 2019, that number had reached 1.5 billion. And it happened that travel and tourism sector was actually too big for certain destinations, and it was it was considered too big to fail proportions for many economics. What does it mean? For example, Croatia and Montenegro are countries which have almost 20% of GDP coming from travel and tourism sector. So you can imagine what is happening to country which is giving 20% out of the GDP. What is happening when you are left with nothing? All of a sudden, everything that you were planning, all the numbers you were actually counting on, the half of the country in Croatia is basically working only from June to September. They are collecting money, and then with that money, they are living the rest of the year. The global pandemic has influenced 100 million jobs. I'm mentioning women and youngsters and students. So they represent almost 50%, 54% of the total workforce in tourism. So you can imagine them basically now on the street, students who were expecting after the college to have their co-practice, or women who are leaving their children in some village, going to the cities to earn some money for these 4 months. But as mentioned, Croatia and Montenegro managed to go positive, back on track from July, August last year. Of course, that COVID changed everything. I touched just the base of over-tourism. When speaking about Dubrovnik, for example, and all of those cruises and huge number of tourists who are coming to the old town, trying to walk the walls, pushing each other. You cannot find a parking space. Many of those cruises were actually negatively impacting the cleanliness of the sea. So the first nice thing that was actually to notice was how nice it can actually be to live and work in tourism during the period which is just a little bit slower. You can normally go to work. You do not have to worry about huge prices for the parking. You do not have to worry about place on the beach. I know those things seem small, but those are the things which are actually influencing the quality of the life. In order not for tourism to be a complete failure for the past 3 years, something needed to be done. So I know what we did and what many other companies in tourism and hotel industry did. They decided to go on a road of innovation, digitalization, of embracing the local values, creation of decent new jobs for youth, for women, for vulnerable groups in society, trying to find a way how to incorporate them in the tourism. And I think that the biggest focus was actually put on training, how to teach some new things, how to implement new programs in the everyday job. So the crisis at this point was being viewed as an opportunity to improve the industry in terms of greater digitalization. And the one thing that is very important, for example, to Blue Kotar Bay, because it is situated in the UNESCO World Heritage Area, is environmental sustainability. Companies started to work on trainings. They started with data analytics, with artificial intelligence. The recovery was aimed to improve the industry efficiency, to reduce usage of water, usage of electricity, to control the waste management, and to sustainable source the food and other resources as well. Everyday small things. The first thing that I noticed, and it was a crucial thing actually, is that finally, after so many years, hoteliers got a chance to speak again with their guests directly. There was no Booking.com or no Expedia or no global distribution system in between us. It was directly guest to hotel. Why? You cannot, as a guest going to an unknown destination, call Booking.com and ask them, what are the COVID measurements right now? How can I enter your country? Do I need tests? Where can I get a test before going back to home? So finally, hoteliers got a chance to speak with their clients once again. Importance of client network never meant so much. When you are left completely out of the opportunity, out of the airlines, out of the visibility. I mean, you have the visibility online, you have as much visibility as you want, but there is actually no purpose to show it, because you know in a real life that there are so much more important things than selling your room. This is when the relationship came on top. So having those clients, which you were having for the past 15 or 20 years, and trying to establish again some kind of need for the vacation was of the utmost importance. So even though the airlines were crashed, people were now focused on the region and the connections you had there, trying to at least get some numbers and secure some wages for the people you have in the hotel employed. Things that we are going to feel long term is actually how the operational business is going to be done on a daily basis. One of the biggest changes is in cash flows. There was certain way of doing business. We, working in a hotel, we knew that during the winter periods, we will secure certain amount of money in order to survive winter time due to early bookings, due to early reservations, due to discounts from the reservations tour operator and tour agencies were doing in November, December, January, February, etc. The contracts are no longer working this way, so hotels actually need to be much more creative in order to secure their optimal level of operations. There are no fixed contracts anymore. There is no money for early bookings, no deposits. So hotels needed to switch, as mentioned, their way of thinking, and they were going into reductions, waste management, sustainability, etc. So this one negative thing actually influenced immediately some positive remarks in some other sectors. It showed that you cannot only watch numbers. So yeah, we have this loss of 100 million jobs. We have lost of 2.8% of GDP globally, but there are many things gained on the other side, if you are looking, of course, from the umbrella point of view. There are shifts in booking system. I think that people now working in hotels have better knowledge on what is happening on their market. I know that certain hotels and director of hotels, they were very laid back and they were very easy considering their occupancy of hotel and the average rate they're going to have at the end of the season. Why? Because they basically sold the hotel to one tour operator. This tour operator had its airlines in the air, and it was a common business. You know, you have this product, you have guests, you are shifting the guests to that hotel, and it was just going back and forth all the time. And now all of a sudden, when that stopped, who is going to survive? Hotels which survived are the ones who have this huge level of network, who were using this time to do data research, to have analytical approach, and to digitalize themselves. Now, more than ever, direct booking system is coming in place. There are huge shifts in how people are looking at online tourism travel agencies like Booking, Expedia, Secret Escapes, etc. Because you cannot do any more predictions, you cannot plan how many guests you are going to have, how many lines I'm going to have from France, how many lines I'm going to have from United States. Planning in general became very, very hard. And this impacted staff calendar, for example. The position of director of sales and marketing in the hotel is very demanding because the information you are giving to other departments in the hotel, everybody are taking as granted. And if you put on paper that you are going to have 30% of occupancy in April, for example, then we know that we need to have 1/3 of the workers in the hotel. So we need to plan how to gradually employ more and more people. As this is not possible, and there are no data that you can actually use how to cope with this, again, other way of thinking need to come in place. So that's why you started to rely purely on your own strengths. But this actually gave you opportunity to further your business. Not every company had the readiness to go through digitalization and through learning process, because everything happened so fast. And even though we are in IT era and information technology is on the top of our everydays, you need to count that there are still people in industry who are middle-aged, so to say, who already have 30 years of experience. So how all of a sudden are we going to teach them, for example, how to use digital invoicing system? So as changes are still happening, as I mentioned, now the most common is disruption in market segments. Before you had leisure business, you had leisure type of the tourists, and you had business type of the tourists. And you know that basically these are two biggest market segments, and then divided more. Now business is mixing with leisure more than ever. I did it just 2 weeks ago when going to Paris. So you cannot predict what will be your occupancy in business segment, what will be the average rate, how much can I charge to them, how much can I charge to those individuals. It's really like no line, everything is the same. You are just struggling to get some numbers at the end. One of the most common things, of course, is last minute. But even though accommodation costs are rising, transport costs are rising, everybody noticed that there is a huge increase in spending per travel. I hear stories of my colleagues or friends that people who are usually traveling to Croatia from Poland, for example, they told me just a few days ago, oh, we are going to spend 10,000 euros this year in Croatia. And we all know that it's a huge amount of money, but people are saying, yeah, we did not travel for past 2 years. We have the money. This is the money we are usually giving for vacation, so we are going to spend it now. So we will see this phenomena of premium and luxury travel, even though it's not the real sector. You do not have the background in these huge spendings. It's not real. I'm pretty sure that this same family will not have another 10,000 euros to spend this year. And I know that on the other side, hotels will expect to have same occupancy, same numbers. Restaurants will expect to have spending 150 euro per capita. But I think that huge drop is actually going to happen in the years to come. And you can already feel that, you can already predict that with happenings around the world, with the increase in costs of life, basically. Also, how are things changing? It's important to mention what is happening with franchises. So we all know about Marriott Hotel Group. We all know about Starwood Hotel Group and Hyatt and Hilton as the most valuable hotel brand in the world. Even though they have thousands and thousands hotels in the world, you need to know that 70% of those hotels are franchise. So it means that it's not their own ownership, but they are collecting commission on every single reservation. So you can imagine, for example, Marriott, Hilton, even though they are most valuable hotel brands, for the past 3 years, how did they collect their commissions? We know that they did not actually. So now you have this huge world-known brand. When I will ask you about Hyatt, for example, everybody will say, oh, this is business brand. It's usually located in the city centers, and you have all the conferences there. People are using it for their corporate needs. And this will probably be your first connection. And today we are seeing this shift that all of those companies who are working on franchise business, they are actually eager to spread their business, their operations in leisure segment. So now all of a sudden, we are going to have Hyatt as a strictly business hotel. We are going to have Hyatt on an island or on the coast, or it will be in the middle of Dalmatia in Croatia, or in the middle of the Montenegrin coast. So in order to survive, of course, huge companies like this are shifting their focus. Business travel probably will come back last. Individual free FIT segment is now back on track. But in order to survive, tourism industry will definitely still be adapting to all of those new realities. For many, of course, this new reality it means technology. 65%, there was one survey in United States, and 65% travelers said that in order to feel safer, they will expect to have check-in done online, or not in person, done by the telephone, or on how do you call this, on tablet, for example. So again, this means that some deep core changes need to be done in information technology systems in the hotel. I was also mentioning changes in accounting system, and this is a good change, for example, but as it came very quickly, And you know that usually in accounting departments, you have middle-aged women working for these companies for past 30 years, and they usually do not have the knowledge of other foreign language. So you can imagine now a worker who has done this job one way for the past 30 years, all of a sudden when she comes to work, she has like 20 different online extranets on her computer, and she needs to put every single invoice for every single guest from this agency online using the computer, using the technology. So it means that for every single e-billing system is different. So she needs to learn, and she needs to go through training for every one of them. So you can imagine what kind of in-depth training she needs to go through and what kind of adaptation actually must be done in order to cope with these systems. Yeah, as mentioned, today everything seems normal, even though in this part of Europe, Paris was packed. There were no hotel rooms, no available seats in the restaurant. Airplane fares were high, room rates were high. I'm doing the same thing now in Qatar. What I am, for example, now experiencing in this completely unknown hidden destination until recently is that we are becoming top destination. Even though we opened in the peak of the pandemic, 15th July of 2020, only after 2 years of operation, I can say that I am fully positioned hotel. But it is a change due to pandemic, but it was a good change. Why? Because the areas which are remote, which are hidden, which are not so used by the over tourism, are now becoming more and more popular. And the thing is that by putting the resort in this small area, we created additional 200 jobs. We have implemented new technological solutions in terms of waste management. We are taking care about the nature because it is UNESCO World Heritage Property. We are doing trainings for the youngsters. Students who are finishing their school now have the place to actually showcase what they have learned. So all of those things, even though at the beginning of presentation we started with the negative impacts, all of those things you can at the end of the story put positive impacts. It is believed, some people believe that tourism will fully come back to pre-pandemic to 2019 levels at the end of 23. Some people are saying at the end of 24. I think that from my point of view, I can say that it's back, definitely. But if experiencing again something like pandemic or something like Ukrainian war, then it will be just another drop like at the beginning of the story. Everyday work is becoming increasingly challenging for the industry. Travelers are now researching more and more when going to a trip, and they are now taking into considerations many more decision factors than before. Importance of organized trip is becoming again more important, and connected trips. So again, we are going to have travel agents and tour operator coming to first place as a source of the bookings. For the short period of time, it was the hotels and guests who started to have control over the communication. But now again, I think the tour operators who were basically on the edge of disappearance will come to first place again. How to survive? I will say how I survived for the past 3 years. It's a need for agility, very quick decision-making process, and deep analysis of the data, transformation, collaboration with travel agencies, collaboration with airlines, collaboration with public and government sector as well, in order to identify all of those changes and in order to strategize for future growth. And of course, always what is in the background of everything that we do is service excellence and experience and safety for the travelers. It is very important during this development process to establish the boundaries considering the goal of each specific country. And it is also very important to identify special niche markets. Mr. Ron, at the beginning of the introduction, mentioned that I will be now focused on well-being center development. This is one of the niche markets, because after the COVID, people are searching and longing for the rehabilitation. So spa centers are no longer going to be enough. People are going to search for something more. And it will be extremely important to have quality, to be reliable, for your product to have meaningfulness, to showcase expertise, authority, to be unique, and even to show arrogance when making some decisions. I'm basically at the end of the presentation, and I wanted just to finish with sentence that everything is possible. So even going through the hardest 2 years, we are pronounced the ultimate post-lockdown luxury holiday for summer 22 by UK Times. And we are now developing this amazing well-being center, and our signature offer is going to be a respiratory revitalization program. And with this, we will be able to put emphasis on the mental and on the importance of mental and physical health. So tourism is not going to be, experience from one point to the other, but experience on the spot, and what you will be able to get for yourself from the locality and from the surroundings. And when having this in balance, I think that anybody can be successful, even during the pandemic. So I noticed one sentence. It was Mr. James who ran out of the power. I would like to finish my presentation and leave some time for the questions. And thank you for spending this afternoon with me.
Great. Thank you, Irina. Really appreciate it. Some really great information in there. So we do have anyone who wants to ask questions can post in the Q&A box, and we will get those over to Irina to answer. Question, as far as what we're seeing in the United States, in the travel industry and actually across most industries, is a lack of staffing. Curious to see if you're seeing the same thing over in Europe. when it comes to staff, especially in the tourism industry?
Yes, for sure. This is a problem not only this year, but we are experiencing that for the past 3 or 4 years now in a row. And we used to be one big region, Balkan region, and people were going from Serbia to work to Croatia, to Montenegro, to Slovenia, etc. Now, when I'm going to Kotor, to Montenegro, I'm awaited there as the biggest enemy, because everybody are yelling at me like, oh, the Croatia took all of our workers. Why? Because Croatia is in European Union and our standard is a bit better, and you actually have better paychecks, and you need to respect the law. And I think that Montenegro is now developing, and soon, just a second, please. Montenegro will soon come to that point. There is no more workers from this region, actually, because majority of them is also going to Europe, to Germany, to United States, some of them. I don't know how, in general, this problem is going to be solved. For example, we have kept much more workers than needed during the winter time. So again, you as a hotelier need to put some money aside. You need to invest in people, to train them, and to show them that you are actually counting on them. But even though you do that, now, like 2 days ago, we have those youngsters, and we are investing in them, and we are, looking the future with them, and they just come to you. Oh, in 2 days, I'm leaving on a cruise, and I will be back in 6 months. So yeah, huge problem.
Yeah, we're seeing something very similar here in the United States as well. So. When it comes to, segments of tourism, are you seeing any areas that are coming back quicker? Obviously in your area, cruises in the summertime tend to be most popular. But are you seeing more traffic at certain times of the year, or is that starting to stabilize and go back to kind of pre-pandemic?
Yeah, you see these beautiful mountains on this photo. So can you imagine huge cruise passing by through these mountains, and they are going to the old town of Kotor. And when you have this enormous giant cruise sitting there in the bay, you basically do not see the city. And they started to pass not only 1 per day, but even 3 per day again. So we noticed that this year, even though we were completely leisure individual market, from this year we are noticing business groups, incentive groups, team buildings, seminars, presentations. So everything is happening so fast. And as mentioned, those business groups are usually staying even a day longer, just to be able to go to boat trip or to have some other leisure activity.
Great. With that, I don't see any other questions. So, really appreciate your time. There was a lot of great information in here as well. We greatly thank you for taking this afternoon and this evening for those of you over in Croatia and Montenegro. It's a great presentation with a ton of good information. So thank you, Irina, for doing that for us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. If you are interested in learning more about upcoming events, you can use the link that's located in the chat box. As mentioned earlier, we'll be releasing info on additional webinars in the upcoming weeks. Finally, if you're not already connected to the RIT Alumni Association and RIT Croatia Alumni social media channels, we encourage you to do so, and those links can also be found in the chat box. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the week. Thanks, Irina.
Thank you. Have a good evening and good day.
Bye.
Bye.